All right, welcome back, everybody. Weekly roundup, a little bit later, a day later, 15 minutes later, whatever. I'm pushing it off. There's a lot. This parsha is jam-packed. I needed an extra 15 minutes to look inside the Zohar to see what it had to say about Korach. Actually, just want to mention, it was 1 year ago. This is the first class I ever parsha class I ever gave, was Parshas Korach 1 year ago. Actually, more than a year ago. 1 year ago. 1 year ago. So for those of you from the beginning, it's always good to hear the same things over and over again. Actually, I like to hear the same stories over and over again. Personally, I like to listen to the same songs, watch the same film, hear the same stories, hang around the same people. I don't know. Actually, it's a very Hasidic idea to do that. The more you hear an idea, why do we pray? It's a little bit off topic. But why do we say the same words every single day? Because the more you say it, the more it becomes part of who you are. Yeah, if you're just constantly saying something new, learning something new, it just becomes like an intellectual exercise. But if you keep saying the words over and over again, you keep re-experiencing the same experience, it becomes part of who you are. And hopefully those are wholly positive experiences. That's just my way of saying I'm going to basically say the same thing I said about a year ago. Probably I'll add a few other things. There's always things I've discovered. So Parshas Korach. Korach's a little bit misunderstood. You think he's a bad guy because the Talmud basically says he's a bad guy. But really in the Zohar, he's not such a bad guy. Always flips it on its head in Kabbalah. So what's the main gist of the Parsha? Korach accuses Moses of nepotism. You're the leader of the Jewish people, Moses. You appoint your brother as the Kohen Gadol. His sons, Aaron's sons, have senior positions. Parenthetically, Moses' sons have nothing to do with anything, right? We spoke about that earlier. They basically eventually became kind of idol worshipers. I don't know, nothing really much happened because of them or out of them. And Korach's wife was not the nicest lady. She really stokes the fire to get Korach involved over here. So the Torah talks about the tribe of Levi is divided into two, the Levites, the Leviim, and the Kohanim, the high priests, or the priests, I should say. Korach goes to Moses and says, we all stood by Mount Sinai. God spoke to all of us. Why does Aaron have to be the Kohen Gadol? Let us all, from the tribe of Levi, take a turn. I don't see why he's any more holy than we are. And Moses falls on his face. He's like, oh my gosh, no way are you about to go down this road. And Moses tried to say, it's not from me. God himself was the one that told me who to appoint to who. Korach's not buying. Korach gathers 250 men, 3 of whom are mentioned, Dasan, Aviram, and On ben Peles. Dasan and Aviram held high positions in Egypt. They were never really enslaved. They weren't enslaved, and they held high positions in Egypt. They were very wealthy, very arrogant. They caused a lot of headache for Moses, and they're about to meet their end. But On ben Peles is only mentioned now. He's not mentioned any other time. He's mentioned in the beginning of the story when Korach was gathering 250 men. It says he gathered On ben Peles, and then it never mentions On ben Peles again. Why? We will talk about that in a moment. Okay, just to go through a little bit of the story. Yeah, they gathered 250 men. Moses says, I have a plan. Will the real Kohen Gadol please stand up? Whoever's supposed to be the Kohen Gadol, he's the only one that's allowed to bring the incense offering, the Ketoris, which is a highly complicated, very holy, and if it's touched by the wrong person, deadly karbanis offering. So Moses says, you guys, bring your pans. Bring your pans, your copper pans tomorrow, and we will have a showdown. And we'll put Ketoris in there, and God will if God, whoever's Ketores God accepts, that is going to be the Ketores. That is going to be the Kohen Gadol. Lo and behold, what do you think happens? God only accepts Korach's. Sorry, not Korach. Does not accept Korach's. He accepts Aaron, and the land opens up. The mouth of the land opens up and swallows everybody. And everyone's freaking out, running away, and fine. And then they take those pans, and what happens to those pans? So the Torah tells us those pans became they swallowed up. A plague breaks out. Aaron gives Ketores again, and the plague stops, and the people are like, whoa, not going to complain about that again. And then the Parsha basically ends with talking about the gratuities that go to the Kohen. He gets 2% of everybody's crops, and then the Levite gets 10% of everybody's crops, but he has to give up 10% of his 10%, or 10% of his crops, and give it to the Kohen. And it's called Truma, and Meiser Sheni, all these different types of gratuities. And the reason why the Kohen gets gratuities is because he has no portion in the land of Israel, and he's not allowed to work. He's got to serve God exclusively, and that's how that happens. So now let us go back a little bit in the story. What exactly happened? Why did Korach really feel this way? So there's different explanations. The best ones obviously come from the mystical parts of Torah, from the Zohar. So it says Korach really was the ultimate expression of God in this world. Karcha dinim, it means he cuts down. Karcha dinim, Korach comes from the word karcha dinim, which means he cuts down severity. When God appointed the Levites, he said that they all have to cut their hair. You guys familiar with this? Take a razor and shave all of your hair. And they did that except for Aaron. Aaron, the high priest, he did not have to cut his hair. Everyone was jealous because hair, especially a beard, shows on manliness, shows on beauty. And Korach's wife said, wow, look what Moses didn't have to cut his beard, and Aaron didn't have to cut his beard. And look at you, you have to cut your beard. The idea of cutting the beard, the idea of hair is severity. It's death, according to the Zohar. And by cutting it down, it's like cutting out death from the world. But the truth is, you don't have to cut down hair every day in order to stop severity from coming into the world. And that was the embodiment of Aaron. Yeah, another idea of hair, and I'll explain like this. Another idea of hair flows down. It's the idea of giving. On the one hand, it's death, but it can also be a source of goodness. The idea of giving, flowing, which is the idea of chesed. Korach saw Aaron's ability to connect with other people, the idea of chesed, the idea of kindness. Korach was stuck in his own head. He was very arrogant. He was depressed. He was very wealthy. He felt that he deserved a lot more. And the reason is because he felt his potential, but he couldn't bring it out. He couldn't express it. And that was a source of frustration. And his wife sort of, she couldn't help him. She couldn't help him. She wasn't an Ezer Kenegda. She wasn't a helper. She wasn't able to bring out that potential within him. And she just fed his frustration and his anger and his inwardness and his, what's the word I'm looking for? When you're stuck in your own head. Excuse me. So she kept making him upset, while Aaron had the ability to connect with another person. Now, what made Korach even more upset, it's in Pirkei Avos it says that be like the Talmidim, be like those of Aaron, a Kohen, of Aaron, Oyev Shalom, Roidev Shalom, he loves peace, he pursues peace. What made Aaron so unique, though, being a Kohen Gadol wasn't a great job. It was a great honor, but it wasn't a very great life. You always had to wear lots of garments, heavy garments. You were never allowed to leave the holy temple. You lived in the holy temple. And your whole life was dedicated to service. You couldn't just like kick it. You had to work all the time. I guess until you retire. There is a concept of being retired, which happens, I think, when you're about 80. That's part of why I had my quiz today, if anybody took it. Rabbi Yochanan Kohen Gadol, he ultimately became not frum anymore, interestingly enough. But Korach was jealous. Korach said, you're supposed to be insular, Aaron. Like me, I'm an insular person. I'm locked up. I shouldn't be dealing with the outside world. And yet Aaron, despite his limitations of not being able to leave the courtyard, the temple, he was still able to connect with people. That was his talent, the ability to connect, to listen, to empathize. Korach was very jealous. And jealousy basically breeds anger and resentment, obviously. And it blew up. And once it started rolling, he couldn't stop it. Now it also says, so Korach actually thought he was going to survive this whole episode. He knew that he wasn't really going to be the Kohen Gadol. He was just trying to make a statement. And he thought he would actually come out victorious to some extent. Nothing would actually happen to him because he was a prophet. And he saw with prophecy that Shmuel Hanavi, Shmuel the prophet, the greatest prophet, they say the greatest prophet of all time, next to Moses. Some say even greater than Moses. He was the prophet for King Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, our first king, as well as David HaMelech. He was a wonderful prophet. He saw that, okay, out of everyone in my family, there's going to be one survivor. That's what Korach saw. He thought it was himself, but ultimately it wasn't himself. It was his children. There was more than one survivor. He actually died. And he said, okay, I think I'll make out of it. I'll make it out of here. And everything will be fine. And I'll live up to my potential to some extent. But that's not obviously what happened. On the flip side of that, there was a guy named On ben Pelas. Now, On ben Pelas was not a Levite. So his wife said to him, says it straight in the Torah, what do you have to gain from this? If Moses is right, then Moses will continue on and you'll be punished. And if Korach's right, great. Korach will go ahead and be the Kohen Gadol, but you're still going to remain the same simple Joe as you were before. And he was like, you're right, but I've already told the guys that I'm going to join in the party. I can't stop. And she said, okay, this is what you're going to do. She said to him, I'll take care of everything. You just go to sleep. And she didn't really trust him. He said, okay, fine. But she didn't really trust him. So she gave him a lot of wine. She said, here, this will help you sleep. She gave him very heavy wine. And he went into a drunken stupor. And he slept the whole night. And he slept in the next morning. So, and then she said, what did she do? So she actually took off her sheitel, her tichel. She covered her head covering. Yeah, when women are married, we traditionally put on a head covering to cover their hair. Hair is very holy. I'm not going to get into the whole mysticism of it. I think I spoke about it before. It has to do with Gevurah, covering the Gevurah. Women are rooted in Gevurah, which is not a bad thing, in severity. And then the hair, together with the woman, it's too much severity. So we cover it up. But, believe me, sheitels are beautiful. Not going to get into that. So she uncovered her sheitel. And there's a halacha that you're not supposed to gaze upon a woman when a married woman, when her hair is not covered. So she stood outside the tent the next morning. And when Korach and his posse came, now they were very frum. They were frum people. They were religious Jews. They saw her standing at the courtyard outside of her tent. They're like, oh, God, oh, we can't see. They were like, where's our buddy On? And she said, I don't know where he is. And she was brushing her hair and they ran away. They were like, we got to get out of here. It's embarrassing. And part of it is they felt that it was embarrassing to her. So they ran away. So she saved his life. So on the one hand, we see Korach's wife pushed him into doing what he didn't want to do in a negative way. And On ben Pelas's wife saved him, pushed him in a positive way. Says that the man is the head of the household, and the woman is the neck, tells the head where to turn and what to do. So we see that, first of all, that the women have a tremendous influence on a man, and blessings in the family come from the woman. So On ben Pelas makes it out alive. Korach is jealous, Karchadinim, and the whole showdown happens. They bring the Ketores. God wants to destroy all of the Jewish people, but Moses and Aaron say, "Oh God, don't do that. Just destroy those that are like truly in on this." The entire Jewish people actually were starting to side with Korach. They really believed he was able to convince them. First of all, he was very wealthy, spoke very well, dressed well, very intelligent, and he was very convincing. But Moses was like, "They're just taken for a ride, these people. God, don't destroy all of them." And God was like, "Yep, you're right. I'm not going to do that." So they bring the Ketores, and it doesn't go so well. But what happens to those pans? The pans, they all get swallowed up. Everyone gets swallowed up except for Korach's two sons. They did tshuva as they were going down. All of the people, it says, went down alive. They were swallowed up in the earth alive. And the reason why they were alive is so they'd still have a moment to do teshuva. And then none of them did except for two of the Korach's sons. And it says they spit them back out and they became very righteous people. In fact, we have Tehillim, Lam Natseach Mizmar Livnei Korach. Exactly, quote that correctly. We have Tehillim that comes from the sons of Korach. The Shmuel Hanavi, like I said, comes from Korach, the sons of Korach. The Chayza of Lublin, the great mystic, would refer to Korach as my great-grandfather, my great Zaidi, because he knew his potential. He would say it in a very positive way. Now, I just want to go back. Those pans, I keep talking about these pans. What's up with these pans? Why did those pans get used for the Mizbeach, for the Ketores? Yeah, they were used for the altar. Seemingly, they were very terrible pans. Right? They were used out for an improper purpose, and you should burn them or get rid of them. So Rashi explains, and brings down from the Talmud, that they were actually used for a holy purpose, and anything that was once used for a holy purpose, the kedusha, the holiness remains. And so therefore we had to use them out in a holy way. You couldn't just bury them or degrade them in any way. But the Zohar says that they were actually used out, they had good intention. And it fits very well with the Zohar, because the Zohar is the soul of the Torah, the spirit of the Torah. So the spirit of what their action was a good action. They really meant, in a certain way, they meant well. They really truly believed that every Jew was inherently holy. And there was no reason there was no such concept of higher and lower. The Zohar goes on to explain that Korach it doesn't use exact words, but he was a socialist. He felt that everybody should have an equal share in everything. But the lesson the Torah is giving is the world is not created equal. Everybody is not created equally. Some are dealt a great hand, and some are dealt a really tough hand. But each person is given their quality, the special ability to use out that hand to its maximum and to reach their maximum potential. Some of us just have to work a little harder, perhaps. But even then, the Zohar doesn't seem to say that you have to work. This person who's born into a very wealthy family with good parents is, healthy, not toxic family, a non-toxic family, is necessarily going to be more successful, or even if they are good people, it doesn't mean that they're becoming closer to God or they're reaching their potential. In fact, they're probably handicapped to a certain extent, just as much as the guy that's given a very bad hand, comes from a toxic family. Each are given the hand that they need in order to become who they need to become. I just have to mention, the first time I ever went to Chabad house, it was a Friday night. I was 11 years old, I think. And The Matrix had just come out, the movie The Matrix, which fits very well with the daily Tanya of Shar Yichud Ve'amunah, if you guys are learning Tanya. I just remember this one line from that movie when, if you guys ever seen it, it's not a spoiler. Neo, who's like the Mashiach, yeah, he doesn't realize he's a Mashiach, just like Mashiach doesn't realize he's a Mashiach till the end, is brought to the oracle, to the prophetess, and she looks at his hands, and his mentor tells him, "You're the prophet. You're going to be Mashiach, so to speak, and you're going to lead us to Zion and to victory, etc., etc." And she's going to tell you whatever it is that you need to hear. And she goes and she looks at his hands, she looks at his face and his eyes, and she says, "You're not Mashiach." And he's like, "Oh man, that's a bummer." And he walks out, and Neo says, and his mentor Morpheus says to him, "What did she tell you?" And she told me, he begins to tell her, "I want to tell you, the oracle told me something very disappointing." And he stops him. Morpheus stops Neo, the Mashiach, and he says, "She told you exactly what you needed to hear. She didn't tell you you were a Mashiach. She didn't tell you that like this great gem, this unbelievable potential that you have within you. She told you whatever it is that you needed to hear in order to work through all of that to become who you really are." Why did I get into that? I don't know. I think it was about this time of year, I think. It must have been Shari Chavim. It was like this time of year, I think the movie came out. Anyway, so the Jewish people, what happens after the whole showdown? There's a big plague breaks out, and an angel tips off Moses and says, "You want to know how to stop the plague? I'll tell you. You got to burn incense." So he tells Aaron, burn some incense, and the plague stops. Every single day, twice a day, we have a custom in the siddur to say the incense. And if someone needs a refuah, someone needs a healing, a blessing for healing, you should be very careful in saying the words of the Ketores, of the incense offering that was given daily, because it has a special connection to refuah, to healing. And so we say it twice a day. And the Rebbe would often say you should say it very slowly. If you have health issues, God forbid, or somebody else, have them in mind. In addition to Tehillim, say the words of the Ketores very slowly and carefully. So then it goes on to something very interesting. In order to prove to everybody that Aaron is the rightful priest, high priest, there was a miracle. He wanted to make a second test. So they did a miracle. What was the story? What's the miracle over here? Moses tells all of the leaders of the tribes, take your staff, put it into this dark part of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. God says, whoever's staff, now these staffs are dead pieces of wood, dry wood, they're not alive. Put them into this area, and whoever's staff buds in the morning, grows fruits, you'll know that is the one that God has chosen. So clearly it would have been like a crazy miracle. So all of the leaders of the tribes come, and they stick their staves together, and Moses tells Aaron, put it like deep down, so that put it where it's very dark, even within the staffs, put it in a way that like no sunlight could possibly hit your staff, and no water could possibly hit your staff. Not that the sunlight or water was going to hit their staffs anyway, but we got to make this a clear miracle. And it says the next day, Yotzitz, Yotzitz Pri. No, what does it say? It says that Aaron's staff budded, it sprouted, and almonds grew. Open miracle, and everyone was like, okay, for sure, he's the rightful guy. The Rebbe says on this, the lesson for us is that we might think there's a place that's too dark, that it's not a proper place for growth. I want to try to have influence on this person or on this place, but it's too dark. There's no light. There's no water. There's no moisture. There's no life. How can I possibly have any effect? Says the Torah, says the Rebbe on this part, that even in such a place, things could grow. But don't think things are going to grow right away. The Torah doesn't say Aaron put his staff there and almonds grew right away. It says no. There's like steps. There's a process. First, it says it budded, and then it sprouted, and then almonds grew. There's a process. You can't skip any steps. It takes time. It's a grind. I always like that that little vart from the Rebbe. Getting into the gratuities. This Shabbos, I want to say, this Shabbos is Shabbos Gimel Tammuz. It's the yahrzeit Yom Histalkus, as we call it, the day of. It's a yahrzeit of the Rebbe. And we know when a tzaddik passes away, it's called the Yom Hilula. If you saw my post about it, a wedding day, as Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai called it, the day of someone's passing is a wedding day. The neshama becomes reunited with its lover. Just like a wedding is when I'll just tell you very briefly. Why do we celebrate a wedding? What's so special about a wedding? Why does everyone celebrate a wedding? What's the joy? Well, from the mystical perspective, which I think is the ultimate, the greatest explanation, really, you're one soul. You're one soul, and as you come down to this world, you split into two parts. And then they go into a male, a female, they become reunited, they find each other, and there's a huge simcha. They begin the process of becoming one. Now, when the soul leaves the body, same thing happens. The soul leaves the body, it ascends back to where it came from, back into its source. It becomes reunited with its source, with God. Neshama, that's why neshama, the soul, is feminine. The word itself is feminine. It becomes reunited with etzem, with God. And there's a big joy, there's a big celebration as it's going back up. That's what's happening on a wedding day. However, the Zohar says more than that, that on the day of someone's passing, it's not that they leave the world. In fact, they're found more in the world after they pass than they were while their soul was in a body. Because the body constrained the soul. But now that the soul has left the body, it's called histalkus. It's like an effusion. It becomes everywhere. Like electricity. Yeah? Electricity, when the power goes out, electricity is all around us right now. You just need a box. You need a way to harness that energy and plug it and channel it into whatever you want to do, and to light a refrigerator, whatever it is you need. But when it's gone, the electricity goes back to where it goes back to being everywhere. Same thing works as a soul. The soul is everywhere. And it has an even greater effect than it did before. That's why in the soul, there's a part of the soul that always remains connected to the body, called the nefesh. The nefesh always remains connected to the body. So that's why we go to the graveside. That's why Caleb, when he went to the land of Israel during the spies situation, he went to go pray by Abraham, Isaac, and Sarah. Yeah, it says he took a detour and he's prayed by their graves because it was a quicker channel to get God the message. They prayed on his behalf. So we continue that today. On Friday and on Sunday, there will probably be close to 200,000 people that go to Queens and visit the gravesite of the Rebbe, to go visit the Rebbe. That's really as we say it. Now, when we think of the Rebbe, at least by myself, when I think of the Rebbe and I think of Chabad, I think of the shluchim. I think of the emissaries that are all over the world. And the concept of an emissary is in this week's Parsha. And I'll end with this idea. No, I don't have to end with that idea. I'll say this idea. When it says that you should give meiser, you should give, truma. Yeah, I'm a regular guy, I'm a regular Joe, and I have to give 10% of my crop. Yes, I'm a farmer. I got to give 10% of my apples to my neighbor Shlomi. My neighbor Shlomi is a Kohen. He really is. By the way, I just want to mention, the Kohanim have to actually work a little hard. You have to build relationships with regular people. I can give my meiser, I can get my truma to anybody I want, to any Kohen that I wish. And I'm probably going to give it to the guy that I like the most, the family that I like the most. I'm become their supporter. So they actually have to work kind of hard. And the Torah has rules set up that everyone gets a chance to move around. Kohanim have to meet other people. There's networking events. Whatever, it's cute. I mean, it's not cute. I mean, their life depends on it. So it says the words, and you should give and your truma to a kohen. Gam, and your truma. It should say the words, and you should give your truma, your offering, to a kohen. What does it mean? And you should give your truma and to a Kohen. The extra and, what is that all about? It's a bad editing. So the Talmud tells us that extra word, gam, and, tells us that I don't have to give it directly to Shloimi, my Kohen neighbor. I can appoint an emissary to give it on my behalf. Shluchai shel adam k'moisai. It says the shliach, an emissary of a person, is as if I myself am there. Mamish. I am there to the extent that if I were getting married, I can have a stand-in under the chuppah. I don't have to actually be there at the chuppah. Everybody can be there, and I can be home watching the football game, as the rabbi would always say. Yeah, watching the Super Bowl, and I send somebody else to marry my wife. And then that's it. She's still my wife. He has to leave when I say, okay, you're done. The rabbi would always say, not a good way to start the marriage. But you could. And mamish, that literally, if there is a level at which I am there, I am working through my emissary, which fits very well, I think, with this week, obviously with this Shabbos being the Shabbos of the Rebbe's Histalkus and the Rebbe's Yartzeit. We think about the Shluchim and the emissaries that are everywhere, that it's literally, to a certain extent, it's the Rebbe there working through, the leader of the generation, being at that place. Let me just see if there's something else that I want to talk about. Okay. I think that's enough. Anybody have any questions? Just going through the parsha. Anybody there? Just kidding. No questions, huh? Was it too much?
I did.
Yes, Nilu. Thank God.
What? No, like the Ketore prayer.
Yeah.
Like, so which word? The whole prayer we should be like carefully say the whole prayer, or prayer,
it's
or
not a prayer.
It's
it's actually just a quote from the. It's a selected part. It just mentions the 12. Right. It basically just mentions the 12 types of incense.
So I thought you were. I wanted to confirm. So the 12 incense, but have to be also paused in between, correct? Or
in fact, you're saying there should be a pause between each word,
right? Yeah.
It actually says. It's funny that you say it. You're supposed to count. Very carefully. You should actually point up your numbers. By each one, you should lift up a finger. By each one.
Oh wow!
And
okay.
You count it all in one hand, because the Kohen. Because in order to so you'll say it carefully. It's funny that you say that. In halacha, you should be very careful to go like this by each one. The Keteris was taken with one hand. It was a very difficult task to do. It was to grab all the incense. It had to be like done in a very special way. Just interesting enough, there was one family that knew how to make the entire incense, that knew how to like do the whole. They had to grind it. We knew what the incense were, but how did you grind it? There was a special process. They never told anybody. They kept it in their family. They were like arrogant. They kept it in their family. This is what makes us prominent and special, and it really did. Shkoyach. Then what happened? There was the destruction of the temple. They left, and then we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know how to do it anymore, and they were like severely cursed. The Jewish people like cursed them. Screw you guys! You messed it up for us. We can't do it. So until Mashiach comes, we don't exactly know how to do it.
Wow. Okay, so that kind of brings, because a lot of times at work I go to do some inspections, and there will be one person who will know the whole process of sterilizing a certain specific delicate surgical instrument. And I'm like, okay, so tomorrow you're going to vacation for Hawaii, but federal people come in and do this inspection. Who is going to be instead of you explaining all this? So appoint a person who knows exactly what you speak and how you do it. So yeah, it's funny. But so Ketoreto, back to prayer. So do you say the Refuah Shleima prayer like in the afternoon for Mincha? You have the Ketore, right?
Yeah, we say it.
So
yes,
you say it daily. So, but if you want to add Refuah Shleima prayer, do you say it? Which paragraph preferably after to say it?
Well, which refers, so in general, the way, like when you say Tehillim for somebody, Psalm for somebody, you have their name in mind, or some people
Right.
say the name before, and then
Yeah.
they say the actual Psalm, or they say the Keturah.
Okay.
You're saying a special like Misha Beirach prayer?
Yeah.
Oh, so
I
the
think
special
it,
Misha
well,
Beirach is by the Torah, by the Torah reading only. That's when we do it. It
okay.
doesn't have to be, but that's typically where we do it.
Custom. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Sure. Anybody have any other questions? No, good question. So Korach was he had good intentions. He had good intentions. He really did, and he had incredible potential. In fact, he was the personification of godliness in the world, says the Zohar. But he abused it. He wasn't able. He wasn't. He was also too prideful. He couldn't talk to anybody. You have to talk out your issues. You have to have kaneh l'chachaver. You have to acquire yourself a friend and a mentor to be able to express yourself so that you can reach your potential. Otherwise, yeah, you got to swallow your pride. Otherwise, it's just gonna swallow you alive. Like come up with these puns. I don't know. Amazing. Okay.
Rabbi,
Yeah.
so it's interesting that you say that because I remember reading on the Rebbe, and he talked about that that Korach was, the Rebbe always looked at the good side, and he always spoke positive. He even called the hospitals like a healing house.
Right.
And when he spoke about Korach, he said that his intentions were good, but it turned into jealousy.
Right.
But he turns it around and says, are you willing to sacrifice your life for something that you think is right?
Very nice.
So he takes that aspect of Korach and turns it around for something so wonderful and something so positive.
Yeah.
That was just a Rebbe. That's just the way he spoke. So that always stood with me when I read that.
On that note, my favorite quote, one of my favorite, there's like 5 things that I always keep in mind when the Rebbe, of what the Rebbe said. One of them was somebody came to the Rebbe one time and said, Rebbe, I have a huge ego. What should I do about it? And the Rebbe responded, just live up to its expectations of you. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's a great line.
Okay.
Needless to
Thank
say,
you, Rabbi.
yeah. Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of related to the hair part. Can you explain a little bit more about why hair represents 2 things? You said severity and hesed at the same time.
So okay, I wasn't so clear. Yeah, so hair on the head is it says that hair comes from the brain. What that means, I'm not really sure. Maybe it really does. I'm not sure, but hair comes out dead, and death represents gevura, severity, because it's closing off of life. You don't see life anymore. The truth is, there's no such thing as real death. That's the truth. There's no such thing as death. The soul lives on, but it becomes veiled. It becomes, covered. And so that's gevura. Gevura is the ability to withhold. It's not a bad thing. It's just it conceals. So it's a bit of a negative, but in this world we see it as being it's negative. It's a negative thing. Concealment for the most part is negative. And it says that women come from this level of concealment, which brings out concealment. Also always has many different explanations. First of all, what that even means. The greatest revelations are concealed. They're the ability to take a lofty concept and bring it down requires, in order to make it applicable and practical, requires concealment. Yeah, we know this concept of the tzimtzum. Albert Einstein once explained the theory of relativity. He can't just explain it to me the way he understands it. He has to speak in parables so that I can understand what it means. I can't, he can't, right? He's got to conceal. So a woman has that, again, that concept of gevura. There's too much gevura, and the tribe of Levi also is rooted in gevura. So the Hashem says it's too much gevura. You have to cover the hair. The hair has to be covered. And by the Leviim, the first time they were inaugurated as the Levites, they had to shave all of their hair, except for Moses and Aaron. And that ticked off Korach. Now, Aaron, he had to keep the beard. He had to keep his hair on his beard. Now, the concept of hair on the beard, right? It's not coming from the brain. Hair on the beard is chesed, because it's the concept of drawing down, the ability to give, to connect. I'll not lower myself, but I'll channel myself to whoever I need to. I can direct it. It's like a concealment in its ultimate purpose, ultimate way. I can empathize. I can empathize. So he wasn't allowed to cut his beard. He wasn't allowed to cut his hair because he was already holding by the level of being able to connect with everybody. That's why Chassidim don't cut their beard, because it draws out that mystical. It draws out. I mean, there's lots of blessings that come with it, but it draws out that ability to connect and to empathize, all those blessings of chesed. It draws down God's chesed. God reflects however we act. So if we act kind and we act whatever, that's positive, God will act positive to us. Women cover their hair, brings tremendous blessing, because it covers over the too much gevura. It sweetens the gevura. So therefore, all concealments become sweetened and become digestible. So that's like
but even
bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, but even in medical, in biological science, hair is a dead protein. It's a dead protein.
Great.
Yeah, so we women spent like, I don't know, thousands of dollars a year to moisturize a dead protein.
Moisturize dead protein. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean,
but my question related to that then, and it actually, I was having this conversation with Rami while we were in Jerusalem. We were talking about the shaitel. So is it still covering using somebody else's hair, because that's also natural hair? It still applies?
Yeah, for sure. There's no yes, you can use someone else's hair. There's no, the Rebbe would always emphasize, there's no like special mitzvah for a woman to look unattractive. That's not what this is about. And the Rebbe would say, the Rebbe would give women money to buy beautiful shaitels. And by the way, shaitels are like amazing, and they're very expensive.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, there's no concept to look unattractive. That's not what it's about, covering the hair. Hair is very holy. That's ultimately what we're trying to get to. It's very holy. And it's not to be abused. It could be abused. Ultimately, it could become, so to speak, abused. What did I want to say? I wanted to add one more thing. Oh, I heard somebody once asked David Weiss. This guy David Weiss is a screenwriter. He's a frum screenwriter. He wrote like this movie Jimmy Neutron or something. Shrek 2. I don't know, whatever. I'm not sure what these are. But he was a screenwriter for this. He's a frum guy. He became Orthodox. Hilarious. He came to our town. He actually came, spent Shabbos with us. Somebody sent to him, actually his wife, before they became frum, religious or observant. She said, I want to come to synagogue with you. You're going to synagogue now? He goes, no, you don't want to come to synagogue with me. She's like, I want to come to synagogue. He goes, no, you don't understand. The women wear hair on their hair and the men wear hats on their hats. Just thought that was a great line. And there's like a big barrier, there's a big wall.
That's so funny.
Yeah, hair, hats, and hats. He's a hilarious guy. Okay. Any other questions? Sorry, I can keep going.
Thanks for answering that.
Thank you.
Thanks for laughing at all my jokes. Okay. Yeah, Vilma. Is that Vilma?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
So there was something I read about the hair having some kind of spiritual properties, that there's something negative that needs to be covered. Is that the same thing that you're saying?
It could be. Gevura. It comes from the attribute of severity, Gevura, which is not a negative, bad thing. We just don't want too much severity, too much Gevura. Gevura is good. You don't want to be such an open book. Yeah, no, you have to say everything that comes to your mind. You hold back a little bit. Not you, saying everybody, all of us. Too much Gevura is not good. Yeah, it becomes insular. That's what Korach had. He had too much. He became too insular, and then becomes jealousy and resentment builds up and anger, and then and he was a very powerful person, and he just used it out for destruction, and he destroyed himself. That's all that really happened, and he destroyed other people. But yes, so hair has that that quality. Hair on the head has that quality.
So do women need
Rabbi,
to
one
cover
more
before
question.
they're married? Or
No,
only
they don't.
after?
Yeah, it doesn't. The brachas don't seem to. It doesn't. The halacha is. I guess it. I don't know that part of the. Certain things don't actually happen until they're married. So until there's like a marriage, I think it requires the other soul. You're right. They have. It has to do with like the complete soul. To get all. I don't exactly know like all the. I didn't learn. I didn't learn it to its full extent. But it doesn't happen until they're married. No, they don't have to cover before.
But I think Kabbalistically, it talks about the woman reserving that when she gets married with the husband, there's some sensualness to it that she covers it for her husband also.
Yeah, some of the yeah.
It
There are
also
different.
brings-
Yes,
Yeah.
there are different costumes.
and,
for different
and
reasons.
it also brings blessings for the children, for their children, their children's children.
Yes.
It allows that their children to reach a more elevated soul and receive more knowledge or more wisdom for the Torah.
Yes.
There's so much to it.
Yeah. No, that's brought down in the Zohar. That's brought down in. That's actually in Allah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Shulchan Aruch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Shulchan Aruch. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Not
I
even
mean,
Zohar. That's in Shulchan Aruch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Very nice.
Robert, one more question
Yeah, sure.
regarding the shaitel, just because I'm so curious. So if hair represents Gevura and the shaitel is natural hair, isn't that wearing somebody else's Gevura, wearing a shaitel?
Well, it has to do with. I think it's while it's still connected to the brain.
Exactly.
Got it.
Um,
Okay.
So you want to cover that. That's still connected to the life force. In other words, it's only something's only dead if there's like
Mhm.
if they've left life, and the hair is constantly connected to life, and so it's
Okay.
like constantly,
Right.
so to speak, dying to some extent.
yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. All right.
All right.
Okay, everybody. Good questions. Good questions. Thank you
Enough
very
of shaitel
much.
questions.
For all
Next
of you that
time.
filled out the form, I didn't check it out yet, but thank you very much. I saw a lot of people did the survey already. I saw it, so thank you very much. Always, you guys are like amazing about that. So thank you so much. It's all anonymous, so please don't hold anything back. You will be doing me a disservice if you hold me back. If you hold anything back, really, truly, I'm being serious. Tomorrow, there's actually going to be Chassidus class at 11:30, and then Rabbi Schneer will probably give his class at noon. There will be no Chassidus class on Thursday. I just want to mention there is a daily Tanya and a daily Chumash class every single day. I don't post it because I try not to post too much on the WhatsApp group. But if you want to know what it is, let me know. I'll send you that link. It's 9 a.m. every single day in the morning, and then it's 2 p.m. for the Tanya, the daily Tanya. It starts at 2 p.m. sharp, and it can be only 2 minutes. It can be 20 minutes because it's just the daily Tanya. If you want to know, I'll give you the link to that. Just let me know. Okay.
Is that Easter time?
What?
Was that Easter time?
Yeah,
What-
everything's Eastern time. Yeah, Eastern time. Yeah.
Got it.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always.
Yeah, I'm at work. Too bad.
Okay. I don't
Okay.
really record them. So okay. Okay, guys, have a good night. Let me know if you need anything. Thank you so much. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night,
Kosher.
Rabbi.
See you.
Thank you.
See you.
Shalom, shalom. my
Shalom,
brother.
shalom.